Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Okay, I need to talk about something that nobody in the Blue Jays front office seems willing to admit, but it's become painfully obvious over the past few weeks. Jose Berrios needs to be traded. Not maybe traded, not eventually traded. He needs to be moved this offseason, and the fact that Toronto isn't aggressively shopping him right now is organizational malpractice. This guy is killing the team's payroll flexibility. He's not the pitcher they need him to be, and his value is only going to decline from here. Move him now while you still can. Let me start with the contract situation because this is what makes it so urgent. Berrios is owed a ton of money over the next several years. He signed that big extension with Toronto, and at the time everyone thought it was a good deal because he was supposed to be a frontline starter. But he hasn't been that guy. He's been inconsistent at best, mediocre at worst, and now you're stuck paying him ace money for number 3 starter production. You know, that's a massive problem when you're trying to build a championship roster and you need every dollar to count. And here's what Berrios actually is as a pitcher. He's a mid-rotation guy who can eat innings and occasionally have a really good start, but he's not someone you can rely on in the biggest games. His ERA has been hovering around 4 for the past couple seasons. His strikeout rate is fine, but not elite. He gives up too many home runs. His control can be shaky. And in the playoffs, in high leverage situations, he's been unreliable. Remember Game 7 of the World Series? The Blue Jays couldn't trust Berrios in that situation. That should tell you everything you need to know about where he actually stands in this organization. Now, the argument for keeping Berrios is that he's durable and he gives you innings. He takes the ball every 5th day. He usually gets through 5 or 6 innings, and he keeps you in games more often than not. That's valuable, sure. But you know what's more valuable? Not having $20 million tied up in a guy who's just okay. That money could be allocated to so many better uses. You could get 2 quality bullpen arms for what you're paying Berrios. You could add a better starter in free agency or via trade. You could extend one of your younger players, but instead that money is locked into Berrios for years, and there's no upside left. Here's the key question. What is Berrios' trade value right now? And the answer is probably decent enough to move him. He's got name recognition. He's been an all-star in the past. Teams that need innings and rotation depth would be interested. The Twins might want him back. The Cardinals are always looking for pitching. The Padres could use rotation help. There's a market for a guy like Berrios, especially if Toronto is willing to eat a little money to make the deal happen. But if you wait another year, if he has another mediocre season, that value evaporates completely. You have to move him now while teams still believe there's upside. And let's talk about what the Blue Jays would get back in a Berrios trade. You're not getting a haul. Let's be realistic. But you could get a decent prospect or 2, maybe a major league ready player who fills a need, and most importantly, you get payroll relief. You clear that money off the books and you can reallocate it to areas of actual need. Given how desperate Toronto is for bullpen help and how thin their pitching depth is beyond the top couple starters, getting value back for Berrios while also clearing salary is a win-win. Now let me address the counter-argument because I know what people are going to say. They're going to say you can't just trade a starting pitcher without having a replacement ready, that you need guys who can eat innings, that Berrios provides stability even if he's not elite. And look, all of that is true to some extent. But the Blue Jays have young pitchers in the system. They have guys who could step into that role. Yariel Rodriguez could bounce back. Alek Manoah might figure things out. There are internal options, and even if those don't work, you can sign a free agent starter for less money than Berrios makes and get similar production. Here's what really bothers me about keeping Berrios. It's the sunk cost fallacy in action. The Blue Jays gave him that extension. They committed to him as a core piece, and now they're stuck defending that decision, even though it clearly hasn't worked out. They don't want to admit they made a mistake, so they're going to keep running him out there, paying him huge money, and hoping somehow he turns into the pitcher they thought they were getting. That's not a strategy. That's stubbornness. Smart organizations cut their losses and move on. The Blue Jays need to be smart about this. Let me give you a specific trade scenario that makes sense. Toronto sends Berrios to Minnesota, eats $5 million a year of his remaining salary, and gets back a couple mid-level prospects plus a major league ready reliever, Minnesota gets a familiar face who knows their organization and can slot into their rotation. Toronto gets payroll relief and assets they can use. Everyone wins. That's the kind of deal that should be happening right now, but I don't see any indication that it is. And here's another thing people aren't considering. Berrios' value to this specific Blue Jays team is lower than his value to other teams. Toronto needs elite pitching to compete with the Dodgers and Yankees and Orioles. They need guys who can dominate in October. Berrios isn't that. But for a team like Minnesota or St. Louis or San Diego that just needs a competent innings eater, Berrios could be valuable. That gap between his value to Toronto versus his value to other teams is exactly why they should trade him. You're selling to a market that values him more than you do. That's smart business. Now let's talk about the rotation construction going forward. If the Blue Jays move Berrios, they're left with Kevin Gausman as their ace. And then you need to figure out the rest. Maybe you sign a free agent. Maybe you trade for someone. Maybe you promote from within. But here's the thing. You have flexibility. You're not locked into Berrios' contract. You're not committed to trotting him out every fifth day. And you can build the rotation in a way that actually makes sense for your championship window. That flexibility is more valuable than having Berrios as a known mediocre commodity. Here's what scares me about not trading Berrios. Let's say Toronto keeps him. He has another blah season in 2026. His value plummets even more, and now you can't move him at all. You're stuck paying him through the end of his contract, watching him give up 4 runs every start, and knowing you missed your window to get something back for him. That's the nightmare scenario. That's what happens when you wait too long to make the hard decision. You go from being able to trade a guy for value to being completely stuck with an unmovable contract. And let's be honest about what Berrios represents for this team. He's a symbol of the old core that didn't get it done. He was part of the group that lost Game 7. He's been here for the disappointments and the failures. Sometimes you need to turn the page, bring in new blood, and change the energy around the clubhouse. Trading Berrios sends a message that nobody's safe, that the organization is serious about fixing what went wrong, and that they're willing to make tough decisions to get better. That message matters. Here's another practical consideration. The starting pitching free agent market is pretty deep right now. There are guys available who could give you similar production to Berrios at a fraction of the cost. You could sign someone to a 2-year deal for $10 million per year and get the same innings and probably better results. Why would you not do that instead of keeping Berrios at his inflated salary? It doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't make roster construction sense. The only reason to keep him is inertia and not wanting to admit the extension was a mistake. Let me give you one more angle on this. The Blue Jays farm system needs restocking. They've traded away prospects for guys like Tucker. They've graduated players to the majors, and their pipeline isn't as strong as it used to be. Trading Berrios gives you a chance to add to that pipeline. Even if you're only getting mid-level prospects back, that's better than nothing. You're rebuilding organizational depth while also clearing payroll. That's how you sustain success long-term instead of mortgaging the future for short-term mediocrity. Now, will the Blue Jays actually trade Berrios? I doubt it. They're probably going to run him out there again next year, hope he's better, and waste another year of their competitive window. That's what middling organizations do. They hold on to guys too long, they don't make the hard decisions, and they wonder why they can't get over the hump. But if Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro were smart, if they really understood what this team needs, they'd be on the phone right now trying to move Berrios before his value drops even further. Here's my final point, and this is the most important one. The Blue Jays cannot waste years of their competitive window paying Jose Berrios ace money to be a number 3 starter. It's killing their flexibility. It's preventing them from addressing real needs. And it's a constant reminder of a bad decision. Trade him now, get what you can, clear the salary, and move forward. Because every day you wait is a day closer to his value hitting 0 and being completely stuck. The window to act is closing fast, and if Toronto doesn't move soon, they're going to regret it for years.